My name is Rich Wagner. I'm president of Dunwoody College of Technology. It's my pleasure to welcome you to our Jackson Leadership Lectures series that was started by the Alumni Board of Managers, and it's been a very successful initiative for us. And to introduce today's speaker, I'd like to introduce Mark Faulkner, president, still president of the Alumni Board? Barely. President of the Alumni Board of Managers, and he'll introduce our speaker today. Mark?
Good morning. It's a pretty nice crowd. Stay home for a 4th of July short week holiday. Speak silently of what you're going to talk about. Anyway, welcome to our lecture series. This lecture series was created by the Alumni Board of Managers. It features keynote speakers on the topic of leadership the first Thursday of every month, so please note that. Today we're going to introduce Dale Andersen. I'm going to give you a little background about Dale. Dale graduated from the University of Minnesota with a BS in Food Science and Technology. Then earned his MBA from the Carlson School of Management. After working several years for the Minnesota Trade Office, assisting small and medium-sized customers with their export markets, Dale joined Delkor in 1988 as sales manager for the case packaging, and cartoning machinery lines. I almost said cartooning. That's supposed to be 2 O's there. In 1999, Dale purchased Delkor after another major package machinery company purchased Delkor's main product lines. With this change, Andersen's job went from sales manager to company president and owner. But Delkor was now a much smaller company, going from about 120 employees down to 10. During the next several years, Dale assembled a team of employees with strong creative and entrepreneurial spirit, who gradually transformed the company into one of the leading U.S. manufacturers of case, packing, cartoning, and robotic packaging machinery. Today, Delkor employs nearly 200 employees with annual sales of approximately $70 million. Dale is on the board of directors for the Packaging Machinery Industry Association, as well as the International Dairy Foods Association. Dale's a strong supporter of Dunwoody. He's hosted student tours, took part in a gala a couple of years ago. So with that, I'd like to introduce Dale Andersen.
So today, you know, with the introduction, I just want to explain a little bit. So that was a big event in my life. I was a sales manager, and I was, you know, I knew how to do that job. And I got the call one day that this big company was going to be buying our major product lines. There wasn't really a lot left. I mean, it was basically about 97% of what we sell. And so the remaining amount, you know, was a big question mark. Could you actually make money as a company? Because the other company was not buying Delkor, they were just buying the product lines. Great name, established in 1973. Let me give you some stats. Established in 1973 by, if you look at your book here, it's actually a very interesting story. Jim Doubleston, on page 3, he was working at Land O'Lakes, and you know, it's hard to imagine if you go back in time and see, when you think about what packaging was like in the late 50s, but back then, the milk was actually, you know, delivered to the doorstep in a glass container, or if they used a paper container that was completely coated with wax, they would fill the milk into the container and then they would staple the top. I mean, that was, so anyway, what Jim discovered is that there was a new technology that would allow gable-top containers. There weren't gable-top containers back then. But they were looking at putting milk in a gable-top, sealing it, you know, automatically. And so he developed a company that made the fillers for doing that. And within a few years, his company had gone from about $1 million in sales to about $16 million. And then his company was acquired by Hercules Corporation, and they started doing that all over the world. And Jim worked for Hercules as the president for about 6 years, and in '73 decided to come back to Minnesota. He wanted to get into packaging. He bought a couple other product lines and started Delkor as a case packing and cartoning company at that time. So end of line. And over the years, really had established, by the time that I joined in '88, he had really established a company with great reputation. And it was one of the largest Minnesota packaging equipment companies. So it was one of those founding, that's a big industry in Minnesota, if you don't know. There's a lot of companies that do that, and there were probably about four founding companies, and Delkor was one of them. We've got about 5 companies start as an offshoot of Delkor employees. MGS, if you know MGS, Mel Barr was the engineering manager at Delkor, and then he left and started MGS. And there were a few others too. Streamfeeder was an offshoot of Delkor. Anyway, so Jim's, he was a great entrepreneur. I got to know Jim when I was at the Minnesota Trade Office, and I said, man, if I could ever work for that guy, he's cool. You know, he's one of these classic entrepreneurs. And I just said, man. So I interviewed, got a job as sales manager, and figured out how to do that. And then, boom, you know, the call came, and I had to decide, wow, what am I going to do? And so that was 1999, and I decided, you know, to see if I could buy the remaining part of Delkor, and we did. And that was a very different transition. You know, I kind of thought I knew what it was like to run a business, but I was a sales manager. You know, it's like, whoa, that's like a totally different experience. And so some of you in the audience today, you know, you may be looking at a possibility in the future of having your own business. And so what I really wanted to present today are some thoughts on that transition as I went from 1999 until today. It's 18 years. You know, some thoughts and tidbits of information that I think are valuable as a business owner, regardless of the size. And quite honestly, I didn't have much money in 1999. I was really collecting what I could. I got a couple of good friends to invest, but it was really starting to bear bones. And then we had the struggle for the first 3 years. We didn't make money. You know, we were losing money. That was a bit of a problem. However, what I will tell you about losing money, it is a great motivator. And actually it motivated us to, at the company, to develop some technology that I'll show you about in a second. Because it really does. It's just, you know, they talk about what does it take to have innovation. Losing money is a great way to innovate. So, okay, what do we do? Well, last year we were fortunate enough to win FANUC's award for the most innovative robotic machine. And that actually goes to, well, we won, there were actually 4 of us that won it. We were number 2, but we won the packaging category. So we're the only packaging machine that won that. And we did some things, I'll show you a little video of this in a minute. But we are a packaging machinery OEM. We're one of the largest ones in North America now. What do we make? Well, we went kind of back to our roots. We make case packing, cartoning, but then we also are a level 4 FANUC integrator. So there's only about 8 of us in North America in that industry. So we do a lot of robots, And I'll give you a little, as I'm speaking here on this is the one that we won the award from FANUC, and what we did that was so unique is the way that we used what is referred to as an M2 coupled with a FANUC 710. We used the M2 to actually group the random pouches that are coming into the machine. So these are flexible pouches, like 8-ounce or 16-ounce pouches. And it was a very creative way that they did it. They actually allowed us to run at a speed that hadn't been done without collation before. So that was one of the really innovative aspects of it. And not really, we didn't really get this because of the FANUC award, but the case that's here was invented by one of our guys, and what I'm going to show you in a second is that we've identified years ago, in fact, that's what happened when we were running broke. We actually came up with a new shipper stamp that we invented, we got the patents on. And we found that if we could come up with better ideas that would serve not just our customer, but our customer's customer, it had great value. And that's really what has been a theme for our innovation. If I take a look at the one thing that has caused Delkor to grow so well over the years, it's the fact that we really put a lot of energy into understanding what is our customer's need. And if we could figure that out, and even better, if we could own the technology for doing that, it really opportunities for our company. So our company is kind of based, half of our machinery is based on what I call flexible packaging, and then half is for rigid packaging. This is, if you ever buy Daisy brand sour cream, great company. We're actually installing this week this equipment, and it's really a state-of-the-art case packer for Daisy brand. So we build all the machinery that takes and forms the cases, loads the cases, closes the cases, and some other things as well. We've got about 50 machine types, and it's a very challenging business because you've always got to stay on the cutting edge. There's no letting up. I mean, every year we actually invest very heavily in new development. We need to come up with about 5 new machines. So for last year, both the FANUC robotic application, the flexible packaging, as well as the Daisy brand machine, those were 2 of our 5 new machines. And and so it benefits us now that we're a bigger company, but we really have to stay on cutting edge. And that plays into what kind of company you're going to manage in a second. I talked about the package concepts. So it says up there 700 million packages per year. That's actually how many of the packages that Delkor has ownership of are in distribution. So this one here, this is actually the package concept that we invented in those early years. It was a simple idea, but no one had ever done it before. And we used, how the Post-it notes sort of have a little tack to them. Well, all we did is, typically if you're going to ship product to market, you'll have a corrugated case or a tray or something. It doesn't work very well for tapered containers. You have to have a full case, but we figured out how to just develop an adhesive that had never been developed before, which was a temporary bonding adhesive that just would use a few grams, like 4 grams of adhesive on the base. And we eliminated 70% of the amount of packaging material to ship product to market. And we saved the industry, I think it's about $40 million a year, because we have about 200 of these lines out there. So if you're buying yogurt or sour cream or cottage cheese or any tapered plastic container, chances are it's packaged by a Delkor machine. But it was a tremendous reduction in material usage. And so Walmart really kind of specifies that many of the tapered containers, great value product, being spot pack. And more recently, we invented this one. It's a Cabrio case. This is the pouch application that kind of pops off and becomes a shelf-ready display. So Walmart also really loves this. And we don't sell to Walmart, but it really helps if Walmart, in fact, at the end of July, Walmart is coming out with their approved list of shelf-ready packages. And we have a whole page, and it's just titled Delkor's Cabrio case. That helps. This is actually a new one we invented. We just got an order, the very first order today. It's called Turbo Case, but again, it's something that Walmart wants to see for shelf-ready. It's more for rigid products. So what I can tell you is that in our industry, I really don't know of one other equipment company that owns a major package that's used by the mass merchandisers, but Delkor now owns 3. So we actually get invited by Walmart to come down and discuss, okay, here's what we need going forward. It's a great position to be in. And like I said, it's probably good that we don't sell to Walmart. They're really good buyers. All right, these are our customers that we typically sell to. They are some of the world's top customers for packaging machinery. And one of the things that is really important to our company is that the Bryant Andersens and the other service techs, they are really, believe it or not, they are a major face of Delkor with our customers. It's not the sales managers. We've only got 8 of those. It's not me. It's really our service techs. And so we really put a tremendous amount of effort into selecting people that are a cultural fit, but also have the skills that we think are appropriate for representing Delkor with our customers. And we believe that we have the best service tech team it's mainly because of the great schools that we have in our area. It's amazing, when I go to other parts of the country, it's really amazing of the dearth of schools that do what you do here at Dunwoody. So we're really blessed with that. Now, my thoughts on, if you're ever going to start a company, or if you just are interested in the topic, what do I see as being really important? What was a game changer for maybe my ability to run Delkor? And so I thought about this, and I'm going to put communication at the top of the list. And it really is, in my opinion. And there's many aspects here. I've got a couple slides on communication. But one of the things that I did when I graduated from Carlson, I really was not a good speaker. And I enrolled in Toastmasters for 4 years. And I was really kind of a baby. I was this kid that was in his 20s. And everybody else was kind of late 30s to maybe 60. But what Toastmasters did is really, it gave me that number 2, that honest feedback. It's a great way to refine not just speaking, but communication skills. And I really do believe that written communication and speaking, the ability to speak, are so important in the success of a business, if you're going to lead the business. It's how you communicate with your employees, it's how you communicate with your vendors, it's how you communicate with customers, and it makes a world of difference. And it's kind of like I say in the beginning here, it's a never-ending, lifelong pursuit. You just continue to refine it. One of the things, I did also join as a CEO group here in the Twin Cities. I joined about 16 years ago. And last month we had the director of Second City out of Chicago, the former director. She was the one that directed a lot of the Saturday Night Live actors. And she had started a company a couple years ago on communication. So she goes to companies and she assists them with communication. And I actually asked her, what's the biggest thing that you see as a problem in today's business world? And it was number 3 there. And boy, I agree with it. Email communication. Why is it a problem? Because it's a really core method of communication for a lot of important things. And, I see it at Delkor all the time. I see it, in fact, I'm struggling with this to see, well, how do I educate, not just the management team, because I also see the problem there. But, and what she said is that email communication is great for informative communication. Data collection or communicating data, it is absolutely horrible if there is a serious issue to communicate, because there's so many ways that it gets misconstrued. And I see a lot of shaking heads, but it's a challenge. And the unfortunate part is that the direction is more towards email. And the challenge I have every day is just pick the phone. Talk to the person is so much more effective. And even more better than that is if it is a serious situation, go in person. That is so critical. I can tell you over the years that I had really critical situations, and if I had just picked up the phone instead of going in person, I'm not sure that I would have been successful. Really important to be lighthearted and use humor. And we just had our semi-annual meeting, and I had some issues that I was dealing with on the production floor, and we're trying to improve communication and a few things relative to our office staff and the production floor. It's kind of an age-old problem. You've got engineering giving orders to the production floor, but they don't seem to feel like they're on the same page. So we made the decision that we were going to have the people in the office need to spend 2 to 3 days working in assembly. And so, we could have just got up and just said, okay, that's what we're going to do. But instead what we did is we had each one of our team leaders from the production floor, there's 8 of them, they had to come up and somebody had to pick the short straw. In the meantime, I'm in the back room changing into my assembly outfit and my boots and come walking. Whoever got the short straw got me. They loved it. Well, I still haven't done it. Anyway, listening. One of the things, I'm going to go back to the same story. We had, this communication issue. We had multiple things that we wanted to understand relative to the production floor, but we knew we had a problem. And so last month, I decided to do something I haven't done before, but it's really important. I decided to meet with each team leader for an hour privately, and I actually posed the question to each one of them, if Delkor was your company today, what would you do? And some of the people came to the meeting with 3 or 4 pages of notes. And it took me actually about 20 hours from mid-May to mid-June to do this. But it was so beneficial. And actually what I told the group, even before I started, I said, I don't know what your recommendations are, but I'm going to implement a majority of them. And I kind of turned the tables, and it was really educational for me. And it really taught me, and I told the management team, is your people that work the front line, they understand the issues better than probably anyone else in the company, and they actually have very good solutions. So as a result of this, we're implementing. Actually, today we're making some additional changes based on that. But what I'm going to do going forward, it'll take until the end of the year, but I want to meet with everyone in the company, each department. It takes time, and you don't want to necessarily do it in big groups because that's not very effective. For the team leaders and the supervisors, it's one-on-one and then groups of 2 or 3. But it is really important to have that communication, to listen to the employees. That typically, you can go and we got Minnesota nights, and so if you go and you ask someone, "Oh, how's it going?" "Oh, good." And then if you take them aside and you say, "Okay, it's really tough." "Oh, man." I mean, that's what's so nice. It's true. And you just got to be able to really understand that you got to be able to have that communication with your employees. And that is a challenge sometimes. I say be genuine. It's surprising. I don't think it's as much of a problem in Minnesota because that's kind of our core value. We're more genuine, but it's surprising as you get around it. You've got people that really kind of change their interaction and how they interact based upon the circumstances. And I firmly believe that is not a benefit, that's a disadvantage. Just be yourself, doesn't matter. You just got to try to be who you are and be honest and sincere. And I really believe that you got to always follow through on promises. That if you're going to be a leader, and by the way, everyone expects you to make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes if you're genuine and you're honest and sincere, because people will forgive you for making mistakes because we all make mistakes. I think it's really important that you communicate in a way that you have to provide direction. You do have to call the shots, and you do have to be, but you got to be careful that you're not overly aggressive or pushy. Both of those are counterproductive. And, I struggled with that. So I currently struggle with that with a couple of my managers, just, too dictatorial. What you really want to do is you want to bring out the best in your people. You don't want to inhibit them from being forthright with ideas. And that's a challenge. It's a challenge in any organization. Be thoughtful. Just like I said a minute ago, I spent a month trying to gather the correct information, the recommendations for the employees before I wanted to make some important decisions. I don't always have the time to do that, but a lot of decisions are made without proper analysis of the facts. I think that causes a lot of mistakes. And it can also cause some very serious divisions within a company or between yourself and your customer or vendors too. And then the last one is really accept responsibility. Like I said just a second ago, your team will make mistakes and you will make mistakes. You've got to be able to accept responsibilities. And I said a minute ago that I had situations in the past where if I picked up the phone and dealt with it, it would have been totally different. But I believe this is a classic one where you've got to go in person. You've got to be there in person And, in our industry, when you're doing these new developments and everything has to work perfectly, that doesn't happen. You do have situations where you've done, multi-million-dollar projects, and when it first comes out of the gate, things aren't working quite the way. And the best way to handle that is to just, you show up in person, and you just say, hey, you know what, we didn't identify that, and, we will get it done. And, of course, that's the promise you better follow through on. And but you'd be surprised, even those big corporations I talked about, if you're talking straight to them and you're laying it out as it is, they really give you the opportunity to do that. Focus on culture. I didn't necessarily understand this when I started Delkor. I am a complete believer now of the importance of focusing on culture. And I've listed our values, but one of the things that is so very important is that the employee selection. And I've gotten, you would think with almost 200 employees, you'd think I probably don't get involved with some of the reason I don't. I have some people that do, but any person that's going to be at a certain level or above, it's a step that I never want to give up. All I want to be able to do, I'm not really interviewing them for their technical strength. What I'm doing is I'm interviewing them for the cultural fit. And so I'll sit down and I'll let that interview go in any direction it wants to go. Because I don't really have interview questions. I just want to talk to the person. And it's it actually takes some people really off guard, because I'm not asking the questions that would be asked. They're not prepared. And I'm not asking really weird questions either. But I just want to have a dialogue to see if they seem to be a cultural fit. And you do your best. One of the guys in this CEO group years ago, his name was Fred Green. He had been the entrepreneur over that developed Alt. And Fred had been a very successful businessman in Minnesota. But he said, Dale, the best you're going to do with employee selection is about 70%. Because I was complaining, I said, geez, we thought we had the right person, it just really chose them wisely. He said, no, if you can select 70% correct, you're doing a really good job. Now, you do have to be able to address the 30% that were the incorrect picks, and that's really important. If you're going to build a premium team, no matter what size you are, 5 people up to multi-hundreds, you really have to address that. That is something that some companies don't do very well. They hire the wrong people, which is going to happen, statistically 30% of the time, and then they just kind of develop into the framework of the company, the fabric. The problem is that all your A players know exactly who that is, and it burns your A players. It actually burns your B players too. But you really have to recognize that my responsibility to those A players and those B players is to address that. And we do it properly. But it is a problem for a lot of businesses, and it really pulls a lot of businesses down. How do you promote your values? Well, I think the number one way you do it as a leader is through your actions. That is really how you promote your values. And you have to live your values, and your management team has to live the values. And then it's really important that you make the decisions. When you have people that are really breaking your code of values, you really have to address that. Because if you fail to do that, then the communication is all you've done is really post your values on a board as you walk in. Everybody can do that. But when people really understand that you live by your values, it means something to them. And it really gives them, I'd almost even say that that's an essential element for what I would call esprit de corps. And if you're going to run a business, you want to get to that special esprit de corps, which is where you've got this great team spirit. And that is not an easy thing to get to. Many of you, maybe you've worked maybe you have it here at Dunwoody, but it is a very difficult thing to get to where you've got sort of the highest level of employee buy-in and satisfaction. I mean, it's something you have to always work on. But when you do, it's magical. It just first of all, everybody loves doing what they're doing, but it transforms your business. And you know what's amazing? People that walk into your business see that immediately, which is kind of surprising to me, because that is true though. And actually in our CEO group, we kind of do a different meeting in each company each month. And that's the comment they always make visible. That's one of the first things you sense within an hour of doing, let's say, a tour of a company, is the energy level in a company. Really important. I don't care if you're a company of one or a company of 1,000. You have to think strategically. You have to write a written plan. I did not, in 1999, I did not have a written plan. And I told you a minute ago that one of my the guy that kind of took me under his wing was Fred Green from Alt. He really convinced me about 5 or 6 years into our business that we really needed to do this. And then, you know, once I started doing it, whoa. Well, let me tell you why. Because a strategic plan, first of all, if you write it, it'll be better. Just put it on paper. And I recommend just do a year. That's what you need to focus on. If you want to do 2 years, that's fine. But the one that counts is your next year. Because in this plan, you're going to really define how you're going to use your resources. Like I said, even if you're a company of one, by doing the plan and thinking it through, you will use those limited resources, whether they're money, people, opportunities, you will use them more effectively. And that will be a deciding factor on whether or not your business grows or can be successful. And once I started doing this in about 2004 and beyond, I can tell you for sure that if we hadn't started this process and applied it, there would have been many things that would have been different. I'll give you one example. In 2009, in our 2008 strategic plan, we had allocated a big part of our plan to increasing our development of new machines. And then 2009 came along, and our machinery sales went, dropped off by like 40%. And it was really, I'm looking at that and I go, wow, how in the world are we going to stay and work on our plan? And we also realized that, if we're going to do like a lot of companies, we would completely cut R&D. And we also may be forced to let in some of these really talented engineers that have been with us for years, with all that knowledge. We're looking at the options, and no options were good. So our team decided to do something gutsy, which, in retrospect, it was the right thing to do, but it was really gutsy in the spring of 2009. Our plan told us that we needed to develop, that we needed to put these resources, and actually we had a great opportunity. We didn't have any orders. Well, we had orders, but a much, much larger, a much lower level of orders. We had orders. And so, it was really an opportunity that we didn't understand. And so what we did is we tripled our research and development budget, and then we started developing these new machines. Of course, we own them. That's the risky part. And then most of those machines took about 2 years to refine, but in 2011, we went to the packaging show in Vegas, and we had 7 new machines. Nobody has 7 new machines. And the other thing we've done is we were correct in targeting the kind of development that the industry was looking for. Quick change, easy change, flexibility and all that. And so we moved into this beautiful building on 694 and 35W at the end of 2012. We would not have done that if we hadn't made that gutsy move in 2009. That would not have occurred without a written plan that told us what we needed to do. That's a great example, but in a small business, it's just using your resources better and thinking of opportunities. Build creativity. That is a challenge. I think to have a creative culture, it is benefit to any company to have a creative culture. But how do you do that? I think that first of all it starts with trying to identify what kind of an individual offers creativity. We look at that with the Dunwoody students. we really try to define how creative is this person. Do they kind of think out of the box? You know, sometimes that's hard because you really have to sort of experience them as an employee for a while to see. But there are, you know, we put effort to try to define that when we can. I think it's really important in a creative to provide creativity. You have to understand that there's going to be a tremendous amount of mistakes in terms of innovation. And a great way to stifle creativity is to come down hard on mistakes. I mean, some mistakes can cost $100,000. And that's, you know, you just have to sort of, you know, and, but you have to take that because that's the cost of innovation. And what I have always tried to do is to always look at that and say, well, okay, but if we hadn't had that experience, we wouldn't have been able to understand this. You really have to spin it that way. And because people will start to shut down if you don't handle that correctly. And you don't want that. And of course, finally, celebrating success, very important. And then my last slide here is just be prepared for the unexpected. I think that is probably the common theme in running a business is, man, you know, it's a very dynamic business out there, and the business world out there, and things are always changing. You just have to sort of be on your toes and preparing for the unexpected. And I'm going to end with this slide here. This is our brand new, we call it the LSP 100. Oh, it's a really cool machine. So it's a flexible, I know, it's just a piece of metal, I know, and a couple of robots, but it is so cool. We just completed a project for Pinnacle Foods, which is bird's eye vegetables, and they bought 4 of these, but it just is using robots in a really cool way. And if you see this machine operate, it's just like, wow, you just kind of sit back and watch it. So anyway, I thank you for this opportunity, and once again, Dunwoody's been a great partner for Delkor.